Most people who feel stuck with money are not lazy, they're not careless, and they're not bad with numbers. Usually, they're thoughtful, they're capable, and frankly, they're waiting for certainty that just never shows up. And that's what I want to talk about today. Why smart people stay stuck with money. Not because they're broken, not because they don't care, and not because they're not trying. A lot of the time, they stay stuck simply because they confuse caution with progress and thinking with movement. And frankly, I'm one of those people, or at least was one of those people. So if it sounds familiar to you, you're absolutely not alone. I'm Stephen Libman, and I spend a lot of time helping people think more clearly about money, investing, and the decisions that shape their future. And one thing I've seen over and over again is this. Some of the smartest people in the room are often the ones who stay on the sidelines the longest. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they just want to get it right. It's not even a perfectionist thing. It's just they don't want to make a mistake. It's because they want one more piece of information, one more sign, one more layer of certainty before they actually move. And the problem is, life just doesn't usually hand you all that certainty. So today I want to break this down in a really simple way, why smart people get stuck. And frankly, what that hesitation is really costing them and you. And one practical question you can ask yourself to start moving again with more clarity. We'll get to that at the end. So let's start here. Smart people are often very good at gathering information. They read, they compare, they analyze, they ask good questions, they look for patterns. And those are all strengths. Those are real strengths. But some of those strengths can become a trap when it comes to money because at some point, more thinking stops being useful and starts becoming delay. You tell yourself you're being responsible. You tell yourself that you're doing your homework. You tell yourself you're not rushing. And sometimes it's true, but sometimes, let's face it, you're just circling around. You're reading more, you're watching more, you're thinking more, you're comparing more, but not actually moving any closer to a decision. And that's the part that people often miss. Thinking can be productive even when it's not producing movement. So it kind of feels good. It's kind of like, well, I'm doing all these things, I'm taking action. And that matters because money decisions don't reward endless mental activities. They reward clear thinking followed by what? Followed by deliberate action or implementation. Not reckless action, not blind action, just action. And at some point, if all you do is think, what you really have is a very sophisticated form of hesitation. I hesitate to say procrastination because some people think that that's different, but it doesn't matter what words we give it, does it? It just really matters that we're not getting where we ultimately want to get to. Now, let's be fair for a moment. Caution is not the enemy. A lot of people should be more thoughtful than they are. A lot of people, they do make impulsive money decisions. And a lot of people do jump into things they don't understand. I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that I've worked with over the years that were going to do the opposite. They were going to take no information and jump into something, and it was going to cost them a bundle. So I'm not arguing against caution. I'm arguing against caution that quietly hardens into paralysis because that shift is a little sneaky. It doesn't feel that impactful. It doesn't feel dramatic. It kind of feels reasonable. You know, you say things like, I'm just waiting a bit. I want to understand this better. Now is probably not the right time. I'll revisit this after things settle down. And then a few months go by, then a year, then several years. And then you're looking in the rearview mirror and you're going, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, but I didn't. Just like every opportunity that you already know about. And if you went back to 5 minutes before that, knowing what was going to happen next, and I asked you whether or not you would jump on it, you certainly would. And now what looked like wisdom was actually inaction drift. And that's a hard truth, but it matters. Doing nothing is still a decision. Waiting is still a decision. And sitting on the sidelines is still a decision. Every one of those choices has a cost, whether you measure it or not. And you should measure it. A lot of people are very alert to the cost of making a move, but very few are equally alert to the cost of not making one. And that's where smart people can fool themselves. They think, at least I haven't made a mistake. But maybe you haven't made progress either, and maybe you haven't increased flexibility. Maybe you haven't built options, or perhaps you haven't learned what only action could have taught you. And that cost is real. Even if it doesn't send you an invoice, it's real and it gets paid, not received, right? This is the part I really want people to sit with. A lot of financially thoughtful people are very focused on visible downside. They ask themselves, what if I lose money? What if I regret this? What if the timing is bad? What if I choose wrong? What if it looks good today, but it turns out to be bad tomorrow? These are all fair questions. But there's another set of questions people often avoid. For instance, what is it costing me to stay exactly where I am? What is it costing me to keep waiting, to be on the sidelines? What is it costing me to leave this money sitting idle? This equity unused, this decision unmade. My favorite mantra is money moves or it dies. The very thing you're worried about is the thing that's automatically happening by you doing nothing. I mean, think about having $10,000 sitting in a bank account paying you 1%, and inflation is 5, which between us is a joke. It's more like 10 plus. So if your $10,000 next year is worth 9,500 and you're getting a 1% $95 payment from the bank, and you say, well, at least the bank isn't charging me monthly fees, and that 10,000 is losing money by 4% per year. That's ridiculous. If you just leave it there, the only people that make money are the banks. Now, I don't say get mad at the bank. Just become the bank. Understand what they're doing. They're moving their money. So you need to move yours as well. But you also have to realize that not all losses are dramatic. Some losses are quiet. Some losses look like missed growth. Some of them look like missed confidence, missed learning, missed options, missed time. And time matters more than people would like to admit. I'm often quoted as saying, what's your ROT? ROT, return on time. As long as you wake up the next day, money is recoverable, even if you lost money. But time is not. It's constantly moving forward, with or without our permission. And you can recover from some bad decisions, but it's much harder to recover from years of passive delay that felt safe in the moment. Think about all the people that are hitting what people refer to as their retirement, and they don't have enough money for retirement. And in fact, people are living longer than ever, which makes that even a double blow. This is where the phrase playing safe can get people into trouble, because sometimes what they call safe is not actually safe, it's just familiar. And familiar has a powerful grip on people. It feels calm, it feels controlled, it feels responsible. But familiar can also be very, very expensive if it keeps you under optimized for too long. Let me give you a simple pattern I've seen many times. Picture someone with a decent income, maybe some savings, home equity, borrowing power, investable capital. They're not starting from zero. They're not clueless. They're not irresponsible. They know, at least in the back of their mind, that they should probably be doing more with their money, but they wait. They wait to understand a little bit more. They want the markets to settle down. There's too much volatility. They want the perfect opportunity. They want to feel more ready. They want the fog to clear. There's too many opinions floating around. And meanwhile, time keeps moving without their permission. Inflation keeps moving, opportunity keeps moving, and life keeps moving. And a year later, they're often in roughly the same or worse place, except now they have one extra thing: frustration. Not because they made a terrible decision, but because they didn't make any at all. And again, I'm not saying everybody should run out and do something dramatic. That is not the point. The point is that thoughtful people sometimes give themselves too much credit for caution and not enough scrutiny for delay. So here's the reframe. The goal is not to become reckless. It's not to force action for the sake of action. The goal is to make better moves, to make them sooner, with clearer thinking. Not perfect moves, just better moves. Because confidence usually does not come first. If somebody says to me, "Oh, I'm totally confident," I say, "Have you ever done this before?" They go, "No." I say, "Well, then you're overconfident," because confidence often comes after you've made the movement. People think that they need confidence in order to act. Very often, they need action in order to build confidence. And that changes the game because now you're no longer waiting to feel magically ready. You're asking a better question. What is the next intelligent move I can make from where I am right now? So if you take one thing from this conversation, let it be this question. What financial decision have I delayed that is costing me more than I care to admit? Not what should I do with my whole life or what giant master plan do I need? Just what decision have I delayed that has a cost? The question alone can clear a lot of fog because it forces honesty. It forces you to look not only at the risk of action, but at the cost of inaction. And that is much more useful a place to think from. So that's the thought for today. Smart people do not stay stuck because they're dumb. They often stay stuck because they are thoughtful, cautious, and waiting for certainty that just never comes. The answer is not recklessness. The answer is clearer thinking, better decisions, and more of an intentional movement with money. Yeah, more intention, more movement. If this kind of conversation resonates with you, subscribe and stay close. And if you want, drop a comment with one question or one financial decision you know you've been delaying. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.